How many times have you sworn to yourself, "This time I'll make it. This time I'll be consistent. I won't quit." And yet here you are again, back at the starting line. How many projects, dreams, and goals have you let wither away? Not because of fate, not because you lack time, but because you let discipline slip through your fingers. Listen closely. It isn't life. It isn't your schedule. It's you. You are the one who has allowed laziness and inconsistency to write your story. But today that ends. If you only act when you feel motivated, you'll never know true discipline. The difference between those who reach their goals and those who fall short isn't talent or luck. It's the ability to do what must be done even when you don't feel like it. Discipline isn't a gift. It's a habit built through repetition and unbreakable commitment. In this journey, you'll uncover 12 Stoic lessons that will force you to become more consistent. Because motivation is fragile, but discipline is a superpower. And if you stick with me until the end, you'll walk away from this a Stoic superhero capable of achieving anything you set your mind to. Are you ready to stop making excuses and transform your life? Let's begin. But first, let me tell you a story. A story about a man whose entire destiny changed with a single decision: not to give up. Centuries ago, in a land torn by war, where every sunrise could be the last, lived Calenus, a young soldier from ancient Greece. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the fastest. He didn't have the natural talent of the great warriors. In fact, his trainers barely noticed him. "You'll never be a real soldier," they would mutter. He could have accepted their verdict, settled for being just another face in the crowd. But he didn't. Every morning when his fellow soldiers were still lost in dreams, Calenus was already in the training arena. His body begged for rest. His muscles burned. His breath was heavy. But he didn't stop. Sword raised, attack, defend, pivot, repeat day after day. There were moments when his mind betrayed him. Why try so hard if I'll never be the best? What if I just don't have what it takes? But when that voice crept in, Calenus silenced it. He didn't search for excuses, he just kept training. And then war came. The enemy struck like a relentless wave. The sound of steel slicing air, the cries of the wounded, the stench of dust and blood, chaos everywhere. Calenus watched as his comrades fell, those same men who'd mocked his efforts, who never took training seriously. One by one, they were cut down. Their strength faded fast. Their movements were clumsy. They'd never prepared for this. But Calenus, he was ready. His body already knew battle before it ever began. Every move, every reaction he drilled so many times he didn't have to think. He just acted. He didn't fight with fear, but with the confidence of someone who's repeated the same action 1,000 times. While others tired, he endured. While others fell, he advanced, strike after strike without hesitation. When the battle ended and his army returned home victorious, one thing was clear. Calenus had become a legend. Why? Because when others looked for excuses, he looked for repetition. When others waited to feel ready, he was already training. And when war arrived, his mind and body were prepared. The Stoics taught this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius said it plainly. Perform every act in your life as though it were your last. Calenus didn't wait for motivation. He didn't negotiate with his mind. He acted, no excuses. Now tell me, how many times have you told yourself you'll start tomorrow? How many times have you let laziness win the battle for your life? If you want to be consistent, if you want to be invincible, you have to decide now. Not when you feel ready, not when things are easy, now. The story of Calenus is the story of discipline. You don't need to be the most talented. You just need to be the most consistent. Are you ready to train your mind and forge an unbreakable will? Let's dive into the first lesson. Don't negotiate with your mind. 5 more minutes, then I'll get up. I'm tired today. I'll start after this episode. Monday for sure. Sound familiar? These are the little negotiations we make with our minds. They seem harmless until they become a way of life. Here's the problem. Every time you give in, you become weaker. You don't notice it in the moment, but slowly you're training your brain to beat you at your own game. Let me paint you a classic scenario. The alarm rings at 6 a.m. half awake, you hit snooze. Your brain, that master of deception, starts bargaining. 5 more minutes, then I'll get up. But you and I both know what happens next. 5 minutes becomes 10, then 20, and soon you're rushing, already behind. Now imagine you apply that same excuse everywhere. Today, you skip your workout because you're tired. Tomorrow, you don't work on your project because you're uninspired. The next day, you eat junk food because, hey, it's just one day. Before you know it, you've become someone who leaves everything for later. Do you think Marcus Aurelius negotiated with his mind? Picture him in his war tent telling himself, I won't write in my meditations today, I'll do it tomorrow. Of course not. He understood that some things must be done, not because you want to, but because they need doing. That's why he wrote, do what nature requires of you. Don't get distracted by anything else. Science backs this up. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman talks about decision fatigue. Every decision you make burns energy. The more unnecessary choices you make, the easier it is to give up. If every morning you decide whether to train, eat healthy, or study, you're wasting precious energy on a mental battle you could have avoided. Imagine you decide to walk 8,000 steps a day. The first day, you're motivated and you do it. The second day, it's raining. No big deal if I skip today. The third day, you think, one day off won't matter. And just like that, the habit crumbles. Not all at once, but through tiny excuses. But here's the key. You can train yourself not to negotiate with your mind. First, go on autopilot. If you decide every day whether to train or not, you lose before you begin. Every second spent debating with your mind is time lost. If instead you just did it, no debate, it would already be done. Make it a rule. At this time, I do this. Period. Second, use the mental countdown. 3, 2, 1, get up, 3, 2, 1, go for your walk. Don't give your brain time to argue. Third, have a power phrase, something that snaps you out of inertia. I decide, not my laziness. Repeat it whenever you're tempted to give in. And relax. It's not about never resting or never taking a break. It's about you deciding when, not your comfort. Every time you force yourself to act without negotiation, you get closer to real discipline. Every time you give in, you move further away. So tell me, which path will you choose? Speak to yourself like a victor, not a victim. Imagine you have a scriptwriter in your head writing every scene of your life. If that scriptwriter always makes you say things like, this is too hard, I'm not good at this, I'll probably fail, you're trapped in the role of the victim. And when you act like a victim, everything becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Let me share the story of someone who changed her inner dialogue in one of history's darkest moments. During World War II, Eddie Hillesum lived through the horror of concentration camps. Imagine the injustice, the fear, the despair. It would have been easy to sink into complaints, to repeat over and over, why me? There's no hope. Nothing I do will change my fate. But one day she made a different choice. She started writing in her journals. At first you could feel the anxiety, the fear, the pain of knowing her life was at risk. But over time something changed. Instead of drowning in despair, she began repeating phrases that gave her strength. I can still choose how to live this day. I won't let hatred consume me. My mind is still mine no matter what happens. Every morning she chose to believe there was still light inside her, that she could still love, still find meaning. Sometimes, standing in a corner of the camp, feet planted in the dirt, she'd look up at the sky and say with certainty, life is beautiful. What a powerful mindset, right? Eddie decided that war wouldn't dictate her state of mind. Her inner dialogue shifted from hopelessness to determination. She knew she couldn't change her immediate fate, but she could change how she faced it. This story always gives me chills, and it reminds me of another who thought the same way, Epictetus. It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about them. Did you know our brains are shaped by the language we use? It's like clay you can mold. When you repeat negative phrases, your mind takes them as commands. I'm a mess. Your brain responds, got it? Let's act accordingly. But what if you change the message? Instead of saying, I can't, you say, I don't know how yet, but I'll learn. Your brain starts searching for solutions, not excuses. Imagine this. You've dreamed for months of opening your own bakery. You love making desserts. Friends tell you to start selling them. You've got the idea, the name, you've scouted locations, even calculated how much you'd need to start. But something stops you. You start thinking, what if no one buys them? Others do it better. I have no business experience. What if I fail? Without realizing it, you sabotage yourself before even trying. Every day, fear repeats the same speech, and the worst part is, you believe it, so you let time pass. You keep baking at home for family while your dream slips away. My friend, the difference between making it or not is how you speak to yourself. And yes, changing this habit takes time, but you can do it. Want to know how? First, swap I can't for I don't know how yet. Not just once. Every day, every time your mind tries to stop you, repeat it. Don't let your inner victim take over. Force yourself to be consistent. And here's another trick. Talk to yourself in the third person. Sounds strange, but it works. Instead of saying, I don't know if I'll make it, say, Maria can do this. She just needs to start. Research shows this helps you think more clearly, like your future self would. Do you think your successful self says, I don't know if this is for me? Of course not. Speak as the person you want to become. You already know. If you talk to yourself like a victim, you'll act like one. But if you start speaking like someone strong, someone who keeps going without excuses, everything changes. That's what makes the difference between staying where you are and becoming who you've always wanted to be. Discipline is trained, not given. So many people believe discipline is a gift, like talent, that some are just born with this superhuman ability to do what they need to do, no matter what. As if at birth a fairy godmother of discipline tapped them on the forehead and voila, they wake up at 5 a.m., work out without complaining, and never procrastinate. The lucky ones, right? But let me tell you, my friend, it doesn't work that way. Discipline isn't some divine blessing or a skill only a privileged few inherit. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, if you don't train it, it shrivels away. Think about when you learned to walk. Even if you don't remember, there was a time you fell once, twice, 100 times. If you thought, this isn't for me, I'll just crawl forever, where would you be now? But you didn't. You kept getting up. Because at that age, you didn't have a little voice in your head whispering it was too hard or that you should give up and try again tomorrow. You just kept going until it worked. The Stoics understood this. Discipline doesn't depend on how you feel in the moment. It depends on what you do every day. Seneca saw it clearly when he said, it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. He practiced this in his daily routine, rising early, writing, studying, working on his character, resisting unnecessary comforts. Not because he always felt like it, but because he knew repetition forges character. And neuroscience backs this up. According to Jordan Peterson, our brains work through neuroplasticity. What does this mean? Every time you repeat an action, you strengthen a neural connection. Imagine a path in the woods. At first, it's hard to clear, but if you walk it every day, it becomes more defined, easier to travel. That's how discipline works. So, how do you train the muscle of discipline? Here are 3 strategies that work. First, do it even when you don't feel like it. Discipline doesn't show up before you act, it comes after. If you sit down to write, If you start moving, if you take the first step, you'll find motivation shows up along the way. Second, use the minimum task technique. If you don't feel like exercising, don't think about the whole routine. Just put on your sneakers. Once you've done that, the next step is easier. If you don't want to write, just open the document and write a single sentence and so on. Third, reinforce with real rewards, not instant pleasure like a donut or an hour lost on your phone, but with pride and satisfaction. Cross the task off your list. Recognize your progress. Say out loud, "Today I won again." Every small act of discipline adds up. Think about who you want to be in the future. Picture that version of yourself, the one who's achieved everything you dream of now. How do they live? What habits do they have? What decisions do they make every day? If you can see it clearly, discipline will come naturally. Because when you know where you're headed, every effort stops feeling like a burden and becomes a firm step in the right direction. Only by being consistent will you see results. Maybe not immediately, but sooner than you think. Don't rush, but don't stop. Let me ask you something. Are you one of those people who thinks if you can't do it perfectly, it's not worth doing at all? How many times have you told yourself, if I can't study for 3 hours today, I'll just skip it? Or if I can't write 10 pages, it's not worth starting. Or if I can't clean the whole house, I'll leave it for another day. Days pass, months go by, and you're still stuck in the same place. Here's the problem. We believe moving slowly is the same as not moving at all, and that's a trap you need to escape now. Marcus Aurelius made it clear. Don't waste what's left of your life in distractions and excuses. Because when you wait for the perfect moment to move forward, when you get frustrated that results aren't instant, the only thing you accomplish is wasting time. Picture a marathon. There are 2 runners. One moves at a steady pace, no rush, but never stopping. The other bolts out, sprinting as if his life depends on it, but by mile 10, he collapses, exhausted. Who do you think reaches the finish line first? Not the one who started fastest, but the one who never stopped. We might think only big changes bring results, but that's not true. Malcolm Gladwell calls it the tipping point. That moment when after many small actions, everything clicks and change becomes unstoppable. It's as if every step you take adds up, almost invisibly, until one day you look back and everything is different. That's why the key is not to stop before that happens. Suppose you decide to learn a language. The first month, you're motivated. You study 2 hours a day, take classes, watch movies in the original language, but when you don't see immediate progress, you say, "This isn't working, it's too hard, I'll quit." Now imagine someone else who studies just 20 minutes a day but never misses a day for a year. Guess who masters the language? Exactly. So if you want to be consistent, remember, don't rush, but don't stop. Speed doesn't matter, direction does. Focus on today. Don't think about everything you have left to do. Not the month, not the year, just what you can do now. A small action right now is better than a big plan for when you have time. Also, measure progress by effort, not immediate results. Don't get discouraged if you don't see quick changes. What matters is that you take another step each day. And don't punish yourself for going slow. The only real defeat is stopping. If today you could only do half, that's fine. Tomorrow, keep going. What matters is not going backward. If you keep moving forward, one day you'll look back and see how far you've come. You don't need giant leaps, just steady, consistent steps. That's how discipline is built. That's how you turn a goal into reality. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't chase perfection on your first try. Just keep moving, because consistency always wins. Stay consistent, even when no one applauds. Imagine a forest at night, dark, silent, only the wind in the trees. But if you listen closely, there's something else. A faint tap, tap, tap. It's a lone lumberjack striking a huge tree with his axe. No one's watching, no one's cheering him on, but he keeps going, strike after strike, even though the tree doesn't budge. Hours later, he's still at it. His hands hurt. His body wants to stop. His mind says it's pointless. The tree stands tall, unbroken, but suddenly, when no one expects it, crack. A split in the wood. Another blow and it widens. Another and the tree starts to lean. One last effort and it falls. Here's the truth. That final blow didn't bring down the tree. All the previous ones did, even the ones that seemed useless. The lumberjack, even when he saw no progress, even when no one applauded, kept going. Consistency works the same way. No one is going to congratulate you for every silent effort. No one will cheer you for studying while others party, for training when you could be resting, for working on your dream when giving up would be easier. But when your moment comes, when everything clicks, the world will see and think it happened overnight. A friend of mine, let's call him Andrew, once decided to get in shape. He was fired up, ready to change his life. He bought new clothes, filmed himself at the gym, posted motivational quotes. At first, he went all in, training hard, sharing every bit of progress. The likes and supportive comments fueled him. But as the weeks passed, the excitement faded. Fewer comments, less attention. Without realizing, he started skipping days. First because he was tired, then because he had other things to do. Eventually, he just stopped going. One day, in conversation, he admitted, "No one even asks anymore. No one comments when I post my progress. It's not fun anymore." That's when I realized he wasn't training for himself, but for others to notice. This is the problem with living for external validation. If your discipline depends on someone else recognizing it, it will never be real. If you only move forward when there's applause, what happens when the applause stops? The Stoics understood this. Seneca said true character is measured in private, not when the world is watching, but when only you know what you're doing. Can you imagine Seneca waiting for the Senate to applaud every time he wrote a letter? Gentlemen, please, a round of applause. I just dropped an epic quote. Of course not. He wrote because it was his duty, his discipline for himself, not for anyone else's ovation. So here's a tough question. If no one was watching, would you still do what you do? Maybe not, and I don't blame you. We live in a society obsessed with approval, but I know you want to be more consistent. So next time you hesitate, remember this. What will help you most is keeping a consistency journal, not for the world to see, but for you. Every day, jot down what you did, no matter how small. Doesn't matter if you only made a little progress. What matters is that you moved forward. And here's the best part. Review it every week. At the end of the week, sit down, read what you've achieved, and give yourself a round of applause. Sounds crazy? Try it. It's incredibly motivating. Because when you see your progress, even if no one else notices, you realize something powerful. You are your own judge, your own engine. You don't need anyone else to validate you. Consistency, even when no one applauds, is what separates those who achieve something great from those who give up. So tell me, will you keep swinging the axe or will you drop it just because you don't see results yet? Let us know in the comments, because here we support and grow together. Reprogram your brain. Imagine your brain as an old computer. It's been running the same outdated software for years. Programs running in the background that you don't even notice. Scripts that whisper, "I'll do it tomorrow. This is too hard. I need to feel motivated to start." The worst part, they've been there so long you don't even question if they should still be running. If your computer starts slowing down, you don't throw it away. You check which processes are draining its energy, clean out the junk, and install better programs. Your brain works the same way. If you struggle to be consistent, if you quit when things get tough, it's not because you're incapable, it's because you've been operating with unhelpful mental software for years. The only way to change it is to install new programs. I know this because I've been there too. I remember preparing for a crucial exam. one that could land me a permanent job. I knew I had to study, that every minute counted, but my brain had other plans. I'd sit down with my books, ready to focus, and within minutes I'd be on my phone, telling myself, just 5 minutes, then I'll get back to it. 5 minutes turned into an hour, or worse. I'd just stare at the page, my mind drifting everywhere but where it needed to be. The worst part was how terrible I felt. Why can't I focus? Why is it so hard just to do what I know I need to do? Desperate for a solution, I stumbled across an idea from Naval Ravikant, a modern entrepreneur and philosopher. He said that at first his brain also resisted effort, until he realized he had to program it differently. Instead of forcing himself to change overnight, he started associating effort with real pleasure. Instead of seeing work as a burden, he made it a game. Each bit of progress, no matter how small, he celebrated. And most importantly, he stopped punishing himself for lacking motivation. He just started with the minimum and let momentum build. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to waste years fighting your own mind, feeling frustrated that you can't focus or stick with things. If I'd known this sooner, I could have saved myself hours of guilt and anxiety. So listen closely. You can reprogram your brain to stop resisting and start working with you, not against you. Here are 3 ways to do it. First, try a mini dopamine detox. You don't have to disappear from social media, but if you cut down your screen time, you train your brain to crave less artificial stimulation. You'll rediscover the satisfaction of real effort. Second, challenge comfort with small daily tests. Take a cold shower for a few seconds. Walk a different route. Write with your non-dominant hand. These little challenges signal your brain. We can do hard things, and that's okay. Third, reward hard-won progress, not easy wins. Stop giving yourself treats for things that come easily. Start celebrating every time you push through a mental barrier. Real satisfaction comes from progress, not distraction. As Epictetus said, he who conquers his mind conquers his life. Think about it. If you start changing your thinking today, over time, your brain will naturally take the new path. You won't have to fight yourself anymore. And one day, you'll look back and realize what once seemed impossible is now just part of who you are. Choose discomfort. Gain power. Picture this. 2 pills in front of you. 1 blue, 1 red. If you choose the red, life stays exactly as it is. You seek comfort, avoid difficulty, pick the easy route. No effort, but also no growth. Tempting, right? Now, if you choose the blue, everything changes. You choose discomfort. You get up early when you'd rather sleep 5 more minutes. You exercise when you least feel like it. You face challenges head-on instead of dodging them. It won't be easy, of course not. But here's the secret. You'll grow stronger. Most people unconsciously pick the red pill. They run from effort, give up at the first sign of discomfort. But a few choose blue. They know discomfort is the price of growth. Ross Edgley is living proof. He swam around Great Britain in 157 days without touching land. Every day, salt water tore at his skin, storms battered him, his body weakened, but he kept going. His philosophy was simple. Train your body and mind to accept suffering. The more you master discomfort, the stronger you become. The Stoics knew this. Seneca summed it up. It is sweet to live without fear in the midst of danger. When you get used to difficulty, nothing scares you. When you stop running from discomfort, life stops controlling you. And it's not just ancient wisdom. David Sinclair, a longevity expert, has shown that exposing our bodies to small challenges like cold, fasting, or physical stress makes us tougher inside and out. The more discomfort we embrace, the more resilient we become. Think about it. What would happen if every day you did something uncomfortable instead of avoiding it? Imagine you want to improve your flexibility, but every time you stretch it hurts and you think, ugh, this sucks, I'll do it another day. But that other day never comes. Discomfort wins. Now flip it. See the pain as part of the process. Instead of "this is hard," say, "every second I hold, I get stronger." That's where everything changes. Let's do this together. Today, start training your mind to choose discomfort. No need to run a marathon or jump into an icy lake. Start small. Next time you feel lazy, count down. 3, 2, 1, move. Don't think, don't debate, just get up and do it. That single moment of action, even if it's uncomfortable, is a victory. And here's something even more powerful. Change how you talk to yourself. Instead of "this is too hard," say, "this is part of the process." Instead of "I can't take it anymore," repeat, "I endure. I advance." It might sound silly, but the words you use shape your reality. Every time you choose the blue pill, every time you step into discomfort and keep going, you become someone who doesn't quit. And when the real challenges come, your mind and body will already be prepared. But that only happens if you force yourself to be consistent. What's your why? Let me ask you some tough questions. Why do you get up every morning? What keeps you going when everything falls apart? If you don't have clear answers, don't worry, but understand this. The difference between giving up and pushing through is your purpose. If you don't know why you do what you do, every effort feels like a burden. But when your why is strong, everything changes. Here's an example. 3 bricklayers work on the same building site under the same scorching sun, laying bricks one after another. At first glance, they're all doing the same thing, but when someone asks what they're building, their answers couldn't be more different. The first, with resignation, says, "I'm laying bricks." For him, it's just a repetitive task, a means to an end. The second, a little more engaged, replies, "I'm building a wall." He sees a bit more purpose, but only in the immediate structure. The third, with pride and a spark in his eye, smiles and says, "I'm building a cathedral. Maybe I'll never see it finished, but every brick I lay is part of something that will outlast me." See the difference? Same work, same sweat, but 3 completely different senses of purpose. Now, the real question. When you look at your life, are you laying bricks without meaning, building walls without direction, or are you building your own cathedral? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." His purpose was clear: to serve his empire with wisdom, discipline, and justice. He never chased personal glory, never let ego take the wheel. His purpose was his guide, and that's how he led through war without betraying his principles. The same goes for the most successful people today. Simon Sinek, author of Start With Why, explains that inspiring leaders don't focus on what they do or how they do it, but why they do it. Most people get stuck on the what job to take, what business to start, what skills to learn. Others obsess over the how to do it better, how to be more productive, how to succeed faster. But none of that matters if you're missing the foundation. Because when tiredness, frustration, or failure hit, only a clear purpose keeps you moving. So how do you find your why? Let's do this together. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine. If money were no object, if you didn't have to worry about anything, what would you do with your life? What would motivate you to get up every day? Think of a time you felt truly fulfilled, when you lost track of time doing something you loved. What were you doing? Who was it for? Here's another. If you knew you only had a year to live, what would you do differently? Don't look for perfect answers, just follow the thread of what truly moves you. Because once you find your why, consistency stops being a problem. It's no longer about fleeting motivation, but about commitment to what matters most. So tell me, have you found your why? If you haven't, use these questions and start searching. Because when you're clear on your why and stay consistent, nothing can stop you. Discipline won't be a struggle. It'll be the path to what you truly want to build. Time, the real currency of your life. Tick, tock, do you hear it? That's the sound of time slipping away. Every second that passes is a second you'll never get back. Every minute wasted is a minute you'll never reclaim. Arnold Schwarzenegger understood this from a young age, before he became a bodybuilding legend, a Hollywood icon, and later a governor. He had one golden rule: don't waste a single minute. While others drifted aimlessly, Arnold structured his days with military precision. He trained, he studied, he worked, and he still found time to improve every single day. He didn't wait for free time, he treated time as his most valuable asset. The Stoics saw time the same way. Seneca wrote, "While you waste time hesitating, life is slipping away." His philosophy was clear. Every wasted moment is a step closer to dying without ever having truly lived. Consistency isn't just about doing things well. It's about doing them well every day and not letting time slip through your fingers. Imagine you have an idea for a book. You're passionate about the story. Your mind is bursting with ideas. Every time you talk about it, you say, "Someday, I'll write it." But when it's time to sit down and actually write, something always comes up. First, you check your email. Then you watch a quick video. Next, you decide you need coffee to focus. Before you know it, the day is gone and you tell yourself, "Tomorrow, I'll start for real." A month passes, a year. You have scattered notes, a few draft chapters, but the story lives only in your mind. And when you see someone else publish their book, you think, "That could have been me." But the difference isn't talent. It's that they took control of their time and you let yours slip away. If you truly want to control your life, you have to start by controlling your time, consistently. How do you do it? Here's how. First, plan your day the night before. If you start your morning without a plan, you'll waste precious time deciding what to do instead of taking action. Spend 5 minutes before bed writing down what you'll do tomorrow and when you'll do it. If you want to write your book, don't leave it up to chance. Make it a non-negotiable appointment with yourself. Second, batch similar tasks together. Jumping from one thing to another drains your mental energy. If you decide to write, then answer emails, then research, then check your phone, you'll end up exhausted and empty-handed. Organize your time in blocks. When you write, just write. When you research, just research. Don't mix everything or you'll do a little of everything and finish nothing. Third, block out distraction-free time and mean it. Leave your phone in another room, close your social media tabs, and create a space where the only thing that exists is the task in front of you. It's not enough to say, "I'll write for an hour," if you interrupt yourself every 5 minutes to see who messaged you. In a world full of noise, focus is a superpower. If you master it, consistency becomes much easier. Every time you waste time on things that don't move you closer to your goals, you're giving up control of your life. If you don't decide how to use your time, someone else will. So are you going to keep letting the clock run out? Or are you going to take the reins and turn every minute into a step toward your best self? Use small rewards to build big habits. Picture yourself facing a mountain of tasks. Maybe it's a big work project, a personal goal, or just something you've been putting off for way too long. At first, you have energy and motivation, but as you keep going, your mind starts to wander. Suddenly, your phone, a random thought, even the hum of the fridge seems more interesting than the task at hand. You feel overwhelmed, and you look for any excuse to stop. I've been there too. When I was studying for a crucial exam, one of those that could define my future, I found it almost impossible to focus. My brain would latch onto any distraction, checking my phone, gazing out the window, reorganizing my desk, anything to avoid the task. So I found a solution. I set tiny goals and rewarded myself when I hit them. If I finished a chapter, I'd play my favorite song. If I memorized a tough concept, I'd treat myself to my favorite snack. Suddenly, studying wasn't just about obligation. It became a series of small victories that made the process more enjoyable. This isn't just a personal trick, it's backed by science. B.J. Fogg, a leading expert on habit formation, explains that micro-rewards reinforce the behaviors we want and help habits stick. Our brains need to recognize small wins to stay motivated. If everything feels like an endless grind, we burn out and quit. Even Epictetus knew that comfort and pleasure can be enemies of greatness if you let them take over. But if you use them wisely, they become your allies. It's not about punishing yourself or suffering for discipline's sake. It's about using what motivates you to reinforce your consistency without sabotaging yourself. If you want to stay consistent without burning out, start using strategic rewards. But not just anything. Don't say, "I'll reward myself with a 3-hour nap after 5 minutes of work." The key is to pick small, real rewards that motivate you without derailing your progress. For example, if you finish a boring report, give yourself permission to watch a short, fun video, but keep it short because we all know how that can spiral. If you power through a tough study session, enjoy your favorite snack, but don't turn it into an excuse to eat the whole pantry. You can also use a habit calendar. Mark every day you hit your goal and turn it into a personal challenge. It's like playing a video game. You don't want to break your streak. Imagine seeing a week's worth of check marks and thinking, "Well, I don't want to ruin it now." That streak becomes your best friend. The point is to make your effort feel worthwhile every day. Life gives us enough to struggle with, so why not give ourselves a little encouragement along the way? What you start, you finish. Ask yourself, how many times have you left things half done? Tasks, projects, dreams? How many have you started with excitement, only to abandon them at the first obstacle? It's a terrible feeling, isn't it? Those unfinished things stare at you from the sidelines as if asking, "Are you really going to leave me here forgotten?" The worst part is, when you lack consistency, all those half-finished efforts pile up, weighing you down and keeping you from moving forward. What you could have accomplished slips away, all because you didn't stick with it. But you have no excuses. If you need inspiration, look to Tom Moore, a man who, at 100 years old, walked over 1,000 kilometers in his garden to raise millions for the health system during the pandemic. 100 years old, and he didn't give up for a single day. He didn't leave anything half done. He proved that age or circumstance doesn't stop you if you know what you want. Do you dare compare yourself to him? Because honestly, it doesn't matter if you're just starting or if you've been waiting for ages to get going. What matters is that you keep going until the end. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, said, "Do every act of your life as though it were the last act of your life." Imagine Marcus Aurelius, tired of writing his meditations, deciding to leave his thoughts half-finished because he had other things to do. That would never have happened. He understood that real greatness comes from not leaving things unfinished, from seeing every action as a step toward your purpose, no excuses. Why? Because when you leave things half done, you drain your own confidence. Tim Grover, Michael Jordan's trainer, is clear about this. Mental closure is the key to winning. It's not just about talent. It's about finishing what you start, completing every task, no matter how tough. Confidence isn't built on nice words, but on consistent action. If you don't finish what you start, how will you trust yourself when things really get hard? So how do you do it? First, commit publicly. Tell someone, your friend, your colleague, even your followers, what you're going to achieve. Who isn't a little afraid to fail once they've announced their goal? That pressure will push you to keep going. Second, when you feel like quitting, and you will, remind yourself why you started. We already worked on your why, remember? With that reason clear in your mind, every time things get tough, come back to your true motivation. Are you really going to give up for a moment of discomfort, or are you going to fight for the future you want? Third, break your goal into mini goals. Don't get overwhelmed by how big the mountain looks. If you stare at the whole journey, it's intimidating. But if you divide it into small steps, the climb gets easier. Want to write a book? Start with a couple of pages a day. Want to get fit? Begin with 10 minutes of exercise and build up. Every small step is a step closer to your goal. Don't forget, what you start, you finish. If you make a habit of finishing everything you begin, no goal will escape you. So, what's waiting unfinished in your life? What are you going to complete today? Tell us in the comments. It's time to close those loops and move forward. Forgive yourself, but don't forget. Let's be honest, you will mess up. You'll skip a workout, eat junk food, procrastinate, or let yourself down. Maybe you'll waste an entire week or a month doing the opposite of what you promised yourself. When this happens, what do? Most people fall into one of two traps. Some beat themselves up endlessly, drowning in guilt and shame until they convince themselves there's no point in trying anymore. Others pretend nothing happened, sweep their failures under the rug, and keep repeating the same mistakes. But the Stoics taught us a better way. Forgive yourself, but don't forget. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." He didn't expect perfection from others, or himself. He knew he would stumble, but he also knew that what matters is how you respond to your mistakes. Let's say you've been consistent for weeks and then suddenly you break your streak. You feel terrible. The voice in your head says, "See, you'll never change, why bother?" If you listen to that voice, you'll quit. But if you pretend it didn't happen, you'll repeat the mistake. The solution? Forgive yourself for slipping, but don't let yourself off the hook. Take a hard look at what went wrong. Was it a lack of planning? Did you let your emotions take over? Did you give in to distractions? Learn from it. Make a plan to avoid the same trap next time. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, says it best: never miss twice. Missing once is a mistake. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. If you slip, get back on track immediately. Don't punish yourself, but don't ignore it either. Reflect, reset, and keep moving forward. Here's a practical way to do it. Reflect. At the end of each week, review your actions. Where did you slip? Why? Forgive. Remind yourself that perfection is impossible. Everyone fails. Plan, decide exactly what you'll do differently next time. Write it down. Act, get back to your routine immediately. Don't wait for Monday or next month. If you make a habit of learning from your mistakes instead of running from them, you'll become unstoppable. Consistency isn't about never failing. It's about never quitting. Surround yourself with discipline. Take a look at your environment. Are you surrounded by people who push you to be better, or by those who enable your excuses? Jim Rohn famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Science backs this up. Your habits, mindset, and even your level of discipline are contagious. Imagine you're trying to eat healthier, but every friend you have orders fast food and makes fun of your salad. Or you want to wake up early, but your roommates party until 2 a.m. every night. It's not impossible to stay consistent in that environment, but it's much, much harder. The Stoics chose their company carefully. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." He didn't mean you should abandon friends at the first sign of weakness, but you should actively seek out those who live with discipline, courage, and purpose. Their habits will rub off on you. Here's how to build a discipline-friendly environment. Find your tribe. Join groups or communities where consistency is celebrated. It could be a fitness class, a writing group, or even an online forum. Share your goals. Tell people what you're working on. The more public your commitment, the more likely you'll stick to it. Support others. Help others stay accountable, and they'll do the same for you. When you lift each other up, everyone wins. Limit negative influences. You don't have to cut people out of your life, but you can limit the time you spend with those who drag you down. Remember, you don't have to do this alone. Surround yourself with people who want to grow, who don't settle for mediocrity, and who hold you to a higher standard. Discipline is easier when it's shared. Consistency is a life philosophy. By now, you've learned that consistency isn't just a productivity hack or a self-help trick, it's a way of life. The Stoics didn't practice discipline so they could have six-pack abs or check more boxes on a to-do list. They did it because they knew that a life without discipline is a life without meaning. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus all faced unimaginable challenges: war, exile, poverty, death. But they didn't crumble. They faced each day with calm, courage, and unwavering consistency. They understood that greatness isn't built in a day, but in thousands of small, disciplined actions, most of which no one ever sees. So, as you move forward, remember, don't negotiate with your mind. Speak to yourself like a victor. Train discipline like a muscle. Don't rush, but don't stop. Stay consistent even when no one applauds. Reprogram your brain for effort. Choose discomfort. Find your why. Guard your time. Use small rewards. Finish what you start. Forgive yourself, but don't forget. Surround yourself with discipline. And above all, never quit. Consistency is your superpower. If you hold on to it, there's nothing you can't achieve. Now, it's your turn. What will you start today? What will you finish? What legacy of discipline will you leave behind? Share your answer. And remember, you don't need motivation. You need discipline. The Stoics showed us the way. Now it's up to you to walk it. Thank you for joining me today. If you found this episode valuable, don't forget to share, and subscribe. Together, we can continue to learn, grow, and become emotionally stronger every day.